Hi friends, today I would like to address you on the topic of FIR and private complaint under section 156 subsection 3 of CRPC. This topic is very much important from the viewpoint of lawyers and from the viewpoint of litigant also. Every time we talk that XYZ person has complained to police etc. so as to register FIR. So FIR means what, and whether the same information provided by the person to police so as to register FIR, whether that information is called as a complaint or not. See, being a lawyer, we must have specific knowledge, exact knowledge, because the information provided by any party to register FIR is called information only. Information about the commission of cognizable offense, and this cannot be called as a complaint, because those who are practicing lawyer must be knowing this, as section 2D of the CRPC has defined the word. What does mean by complaint? Complaint under CRPC is always to a magistrate for known against the known or unknown person for commission of cognizable or non-cognizable offense, so as to or with a view to that the magistrate shall take cognizance of the same offense. Therefore, any person who complains to police, it cannot be called as a complaint, but it is only information given by that person. Now, FIR means when the information given by the person about the commission of cognizable offense is reduced in writing and it is registered by police, then it is called first information report. Under section 154 of the CRPC, this is provided. Now, what is criteria to register FIR is the information so provided by the aggrieved person or the complainant should be cognizable only, because for non-cognizable offense FIR cannot be registered. Now once again, there are two classifications under the CRPC: cognizable offense and non-cognizable offense. What does it mean? We have to know. Cognizable offense is an offense for which the police can arrest the accused without the warrant, and police can start the investigation or can do the investigation without the permission of the magistrate. The cognizable offenses are serious in nature, therefore the police are not required to take permission of the magistrate to arrest. Directly without warrant they can arrest because the law authorizes them. However, investigation, even for investigation they are not required to seek any sort of permission from the magistrate. Whereas in case of non-cognizable offenses which are not that serious, non-cognizable offenses are such offenses for which the police cannot do investigation without the permission of the magistrate and cannot arrest the accused without the warrant. This is the only difference. Now, I would like to give some of the examples of non-cognizable offenses which are not so serious in nature and the punishment of which does not exceed normally 3 years, that is within 3 years. So, for example, defamation, offense under section 499, punishable under section 500 of IPC is of defamation. This is non-cognizable offense. Similarly, section 494 of the IPC, offense of bigamy, a married person having his spouse, leaving his spouse without giving divorce to him or hers, get another married during the lifetime of the first one, then it is offense of bigamy under section 494 of the IPC. That is also non-cognizable. Similarly, anyone has threatened, then the said offense is also non-cognizable offense, for which according to section 155 of CRPC, NC can be registered, but for which no FIR can be registered. Now, the criminal law is put in a motion because the law is put in a motion by way of registration of FIR only. So, first of all, the person will give information of the cognizable offense to police station so as to register FIR. then the said information given by the said person could be orally, yes, could be telephonic, yes, could be through email, yes, could be in the writing form, like writing everything the detail, requesting the in charge of the police to register FIR. So the information could be in the writing form, written form, or oral form, or through email, whatever. The said information should be reduced in writing by the officer in charge of the police, and police have to register FIR. And what is the criteria to register FIR? That the police in charge of the police should check whether the said information given by the informant reveals cognizable offense is committed or not. If commission of cognizable offense is there, means if it is committed, then definitely there is no other way or option left with such a police officer but to register FIR. The no option, no excuse, no will or wish can prevail of such officer, and it is statutory provision of the law that under section 154 of CRPC he has to register FIR. He cannot give any excuses, because the only criteria to register FIR is the information given by the person detects that the cognizable offense has been committed by known or unknown person. However, we know that sometimes police do not register FIR. This is the practical thing which goes on in the society, and many of the people, they experience this, that police have not registered FIR because the accused is builder or developer, or he is a politician, or he is very rich person, or he is very big officer, etc., for number of reasons which we cannot cite in detail everything. So probably because of such a reasons the FIR cannot be is not registered by the police officers. But when the information provided by the informant reveals cognizable offense is committed, then he has to register. Otherwise, whatever he is committing is misconduct, for which action can be taken against such a erring police officers, and disciplinary actions can be initiated against him for suspension or for suspending him or dismissing him from his service. Now, there are two ways. Once the information is given by the person to register FIR, then either police will register FIR or police will not register FIR. Suppose police has registered FIR, then the course of legal action which a accused can seek or sought, that he can approach the Honorable High Court. If he feels that he is innocent, then he can approach the Honorable High Court to get it quashed and set aside. Under section 482 of the CRPC, he can file a quashing petition, or he can also file a writ for quashing of the FIR, provided that he feels innocent and he has been falsely implicated. And the other way, the immediate action what he will take to protect his liberty, that he will file anticipatory bail application under section 438 of CRPC before the concerned sessions court, or he might go to Honorable High Court to get his liberty protected. He can go for anticipatory bail application. That are his rights. Now, if FIR is not registered by the police officer, then what informant or complainant has to do? Then the right action, legal action which informant can seek or can do is he can complain to the superintendent of police in writing, and in case of metropolitan cities he can complain to commissioner of the police. Thereafter what? If the commissioner or SP has not taken any cognizance, he has not done anything, or he has also refused to register FIR, or he has not directed the concerned police officer to register FIR, in that case the party can approach the concerned JMFC court, Judicial Magistrate First Class Court, to file a private complaint under section 156 subsection 3 of CRPC. See, there are two possibilities when the complaint is filed to superintendent of police or to commissioner. Either he will direct the concerned in charge of the police to register a FIR, or he can also change the in charge of the police station. He can assign the work to some other one. Or if he failed, if he has not taken any cognizance, he never listened, and the voice of the informant fall on the deaf ear of the SP or commissioner, then it means he has refused to register FIR. Then the other, obviously the way is to file private complaint under section 156 subsection 3, that is very popularly known as private complaint. See, one thing I would like to clarify here once more. The information can be given by the aggrieved person or by anyone. For example, fight is going on between 5 or 6 persons here, and anybody has saw this fighting. So immediately he phoned to police station that such and such a things are going on, and here an offense is being committed. So the informant is different one than the aggrieved person. So the informant could be different one than the aggrieved person. Thereafter, now come on section 156 subsection 3. What it speaks, that it gives the magistrate power to direct the police officer to register FIR and to do investigation. Now here two possibilities are there. The magistrate will take action or he will not take action. He will not, either he will dismiss the private complaint filed under section 156, or he will allow the private complaint. Now the advocate of the complainant will argue the matter, and after subjective satisfaction of the magistrate and after prima facie, if the case is made out, then the magistrate will surely direct the concerned police officer or in charge of the police station to register FIR and to do investigation. Here there are sometimes the magistrate writes, because of their negligence, they write something like, they say in their order that it is directed to the in charge of the police to do investigation, whereas the order does not speak anything in respect of the registration of FIR. In that case, it should be inferred that the magistrate has also ordered for registration of FIR also, because without registration of FIR there can't be investigation. So on the contrary, if the magistrate has directed to register FIR only, but he did not speak specifically anything in his order as to investigation, then it shall be deemed that investigation is also empowered, because that is the ultimately zone of the police officer to do investigation. Once the direction is given, either direction, then other thing has to be inferred. So the police have authority to register FIR. Once the direction is given by the magistrate, then they can register FIR and they can do the investigation. Now sometime magistrate may ask whether you complied section 154 subsection 3 of CRPC. Section 154 subsection 3 of the CRPC speaks that the party who is filing this private complaint need to establish before the magistrate court that they have approached the police station first. Thereafter, means in charge of the police station, to register FIR. Thereafter, if he refused to register FIR, then whether they have approached the SP or not, or commissioner of the police or not. Because unless this is being checked by the magistrate, he will not listen the petition, listen the petitioner, etc. This is compliance under section 154 subsection 3 of CRPC. Whereas in one of the judgment of Popat Bhai Pancha Bhai delivered by the Honorable High Court of Bombay, it is said that even if the party does not approach the concerned police station or thereafter SP or commissioner, as the case may be, even if the party directly comes and file private complaint before the magistrate, then magistrate cannot ask for this, and magistrate has to listen them, and magistrate can proceed with the matter, provided that the matter is so urgent, and directing him or allowing him to withdraw the petition and to follow the compliance, etc. If that consumes much more time, in that case, applying the judicial mind, the magistrate can listen them and can entertain the petition or complaint and can proceed with the matter. However, in Priyanka Srivastav's case, the Honorable Supreme Court of India has directed that the compliance of Section 154 subsection 3 of CRPC is mandatory. Then what is the guidelines laid down by the Honorable Supreme Court of India in Priyanka Srivastav's case? That before filing of the private complaint before the magistrate, the party has to approach first the concerned police station, in charge of the police station, so as to register a FIR. Second thing, if he does not register a FIR, then party has to approach the commissioner of the police or superintendent of police, as the case may be. Unless he does so, then the magistrate cannot entertain such a private complaint under Section 156 subsection 3. This is the mandate given in Priyanka Srivastav's case. Note down, Priyanka Srivastav's case versus State of UP. Thereafter, now the magistrate will have his subjective satisfaction, and if he feels that prima facie case is made out and it is established prima facie that the cognizable offence has been committed by the accused, in that case magistrate has to immediately forthwith direct the concerned in charge of the police to register a FIR to do investigation. Thereafter, police will collect the evidences, police will record the statement of prosecution witnesses and other witnesses, etc. And police will collect the articles, and thereafter police will submit the all kind of evidences through their report called police report, that is under Section 173 of CRPC. At the time, police may give summary report, A summary report, B summary report, or C summary report, as the case may be. Whereas the question arises whether the magistrate is bound to accept the police report of the police or IO. Obviously, answer is no, because the magistrate cannot be kept remediless or helpless. He can apply his own mind, and his action of taking cognizance is independent action. Under Section 190 of CRPC, he can take action. Therefore, he is not bound to accept the report of the police, and he can apply his own mind. Sometime police may find some additional evidences. Sometime police may record the statement of prosecution witnesses, etc. And some new witnesses may come into picture. In that case, police can also file additional charge sheet, that is called supplementary charge sheet, under Section 173 subsection 8 of CRPC. That is called supplementary charge sheet, and this is further investigation. Now, question arises. Earlier, there were judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court of India which speaks that the complainant or advocate of the complainant cannot make an application before the magistrate to request the magistrate to direct for further investigation by the IO, investigating officer. And even magistrates earlier were not having a power to do so. They cannot direct to register to do a further investigation. Now, the only remedy which was available, that only position was that the only IO can make an application to the magistrate to do that, to do further investigation by him. Now, in Vinubhai's case, the Honorable Supreme Court of India has laid down that magistrate can also direct the IO for doing further investigation. Now, this is the current position. Now, as far as the investigation is concerned, that is the zone or power of the police officer. Therefore, the magistrate cannot direct the police officer to do investigation in particular manner, because the police officer can do investigation according to law. The only thing is that the investigation being done by the IO should be fair, it should be independent, fair, and according to law. However, the magistrate has no power to dictate or mandate the manner of investigation. That investigation should be done in such a manner or should be completed within that duration, or the manner should be like that only. He cannot dictate like that. Neither the magistrate is having a right to stop the investigation. However, the magistrate has authority to monitor the investigation being carried out by the investigating officer. If the aggrieved party complainant feels that the investigation is not properly carried out, not being done fairly or impartially, then independently, impartially or fairly, then the aggrieved person can always move to the Honorable High Court to seek a direction that the investigating officer may be changed. So such a kind of direction can be given by the Honorable High Court under a writ jurisdiction also. Now there are some judgment which are very much important in Lalita Kumari's case, that is decided by the Honorable Supreme Court of India, in that the Honorable Supreme Court of India has said that the registration of FIR is mandatory and the criteria to register FIR is only whether the cognizable offence is committed or not. Once it is revealed that from the information given by the informant that the offence is committed, cognizable offence is committed, then there is no other option left with the police officer but only to register FIR. And the registration of FIR does not depend upon the will or wish of the IO, or it does not depend upon his whimsical mind, or it cannot be done in an arbitrary way. Therefore, the only criteria is that the information so given by the informant reveals the cognizable offence. Once it is revealed, then he has no option but to register FIR. And sometime the police officer may take his own time. He may say that I am doing a preliminary inquiry, etc., so as to ascertain whether cognizable offence is committed or not. Under this judgment of Lalita Kumari, the Honorable Supreme Court has said that the scope of inquiry being done by the IO or police officer is limited to know only whether cognizable offence has been committed or not. Therefore, the police in charge cannot go into the credibility or genuineness of the offence. Police cannot say that whether it is genuine or not, whether evidences are true or not, because he is not judged to decide or appreciate the evidences. That is the task of the magistrate to check out. Only thing which he need to check is very limited. The scope of his inquiry is very limited to know whether cognizable offence is committed or not. In such a preliminary inquiry, he can seek a time of only 1 week, and that should be decided within the span of 1 week by such a police officer. Normally, in case of offences under section 420 or offences related to money or matrimonial offences, inquiry can be done immediately. Police will not register a FIR. So the time is given to them, and sometimes it is also difficult to find out whether the offence is of civil nature, or because it may be a breach of contract, etc. It may not be a 420, etc. In that case, police can do in preliminary inquiry. However, such a preliminary inquiry should be summed up, concluded within the span of 1 week only, and no extra time can be taken by the police officer under this name. Now, if these guidelines are not followed, if the guidelines delivered by the Honorable Supreme Court in Lalita Kumari's case are not followed, then the action can be taken against the erring police officer. Suppose he has not registered FIR, despite of the fact that the information reveals cognizable offence. Then disciplinary action can be taken against him. He could be suspended, he could be dismissed from the service because it is criminal, it is misconduct. And against such a police officer also, a aggrieved person can file complaint to the higher authorities. Now it is set up under the Bombay Police Act, which is also known as Maharashtra Police Act. So the complaint can be filed against such a police officer to the higher police officers. And if such a conduct that intentionally, if police officer does not register FIR despite of the fact that there is cognizable offence is committed of, in that case it will be a misconduct for which he can be punished under contempt of court, because the order of the Honorable Supreme Court need to be followed. And as under Article 141 of the Constitution of India, once the order is pronounced by the Honorable Supreme Court, judgment is delivered by the Supreme Court, then that has to be followed by all high courts in India and all trial courts and everyone. Like that, this will be a contempt of court for which a disciplinary action can be taken against the erring police officers. Now, there is also one more important judgment called Arnesh Kumar versus State of Bihar. This speaks in respect of the guidelines as to arrest, touching the aspect of section 41 of the CRPC, and it says that the arrest should not be done in a mechanical way, and there should be justification of the arrest by the police officer, though he has got the right to arrest, because right to arrest, power to arrest is one thing. However, justification of exercising such a power or arresting such a accused should be justifiable. So there has to be justification. CRPC has given a wide power to the police officer to arrest the person who has committed cognizable offences, and if the offence is cognizable, then police can arrest that accused without warrant of the magistrate. However, does it mean that automatically he has to arrest? He should not apply his mind. No, he has to apply his logic. He should justify the arrest. He should have a reason that, for example, the accused is likely to run away, he is likely to commit further offence, he is likely to sell out his property, thereafter he will tamper the evidences, etc. Then in that case, definitely police officer has to arrest that person. So under the Arnesh Kumar versus State of Bihar, the Honorable Supreme Court of India has laid down a guidelines saying that this judgment is not only applicable in case of only 498A of the IPC, but it is applicable to all the offences, all criminal offences which are punishable up to 7 years. And the police officer should not arrest the accused in mechanical way. He has to justify, though he has got right to arrest in cognizable cases, but he has to apply his mind. And he has to issue notice under section 41 of the CRPC before such arrest is made, and so that he can do an inquiry, proper inquiry. He can call the concerned person in the police station by issuing notice. And the directions have been given by this Honorable Supreme Court to all the secretaries of the state and all the subordinate judges that this judgment must be complied with, even to all police officers. Therefore, nowadays, power to arrest is one thing and justification of arrest is another thing. This has been clarified. Most of the time, before 2015, when the judgment came into picture or delivered, police used to arrest in matrimonial offences. They used to come on Saturday, etc. They used to arrest the entire family of the husband if the complaint is filed by the wife, and it was nothing but abuse of the process of law, etc. So considering this, the Supreme Court has laid down in this judgment that maximum cases are of false nature, frivolous, etc. Therefore, the direction is given to the police officer that they should not arrest in case if the offence is punishable for less than 7 years. If the offence is punishable for more than 7 years, then obviously the judgment of Arnesh Kumar is not applicable. Then police can arrest. For example, murder case or forgery under section 467, they can arrest. Then the judgment is not applicable. Therefore, the protection is given to accused also under section 4, under this judgment by the Honorable Supreme Court, and his liberty can be protected by the judgment. Now, while hearing the argument, the magistrate, in case of private complaint, whether the complainant has right to counter argue or right to appear in the court through his advocate, etc., or whether his advocate can counter the argument of the advocate for the complainant. Answer is no, because the right of the accused begins only when the court has taken some action against him, court has directed the police officer to register FIR or to do investigation, or court has taken cognizance, then only his right comes into picture. Till that time he cannot come, and his coming to the court and objecting the same will be premature. Therefore court will not entertain such a hearing, or court will not give him any opportunity of being heard. Court will not listen the court will not listen the accused or his advocate at this juncture of time. This will be premature. Once the cognizance is taken, then the right of the accused begins. Then he can come through his advocate and can continue the proceeding and can defend himself. Another question arises at the time of argument of petition under section 156 subsection 3. Petition means complaint, obviously. Then sometime if the accused is public officer, accused is public officer or judge or any government officer working in state government or central government, then in that case, so unless, because in a section 197 of CRPC is applicable, that ground can be taken by the magistrate whether previous sanction is obtained by the complainant, because 197 of the CRPC says that to prosecute the judges or public servant, unless previous sanction is taken by the complainant from the competent authority, then no cognizance can be taken by the magistrate. Therefore, section 197, according to section 197, the protective umbrella is given to the public officers, judges, because if they are accused, then protection is given to them. However, what section 197 of the CRPC speaks out, that if the offense is committed and while discharging his official duty, and that is so connected, the alleged act is so connected with his duty that cannot be segregated, then and then only they will get the protection. For example, on the contrary, suppose they have done bribery or they have committed outraging the modesty of woman. In that case, protection under section 197 of the CRPC is not applicable. So this cannot be argued by the public officer or by the public servant, etc., because he will not get the protection. If public officer has done a corruption, in that case no sanction is at all required. FIR can be registered against him, court can direct registration of FIR against him and investigation also, and he cognizance can be taken by the magistrate. However, another question arises while hearing the complaint under section 156 subsection 3. Whether magistrate can raise such a question if the accused is public servant, whether he can ask the complainant whether you have taken cognizance under section 197 of the CRPC or not. Yes or no? In my view, it is not. Because why? Directing the police officer to register FIR or to do investigation, this is pre-cognizance stage. Pre-cognizance stage. This is not the stage where magistrate is supposed to take cognizance. Magistrate takes cognizance at later stage. What is taking cognizance is applying his judicial mind or examining the witnesses or complainant on oath, putting him in the witness box, asking him a question, applying the judicial mind, etc., could be called as a taking cognizance. So what section 197 of the CRPC speaks that no magistrate can take cognizance of offense committed by public servant during their official work, etc., because they have got the protective umbrella. However, taking cognizance is later stage. Therefore, this cannot be raised by the this question cannot be raised by the magistrate at the time of hearing the private complaint under section 156 for the first time. He can obviously register FIR, he can direct registration of FIR and can direct for investigation also. Because registration of FIR is not obviously pre-stage of the taking cognizance. It's pre-cognizance stage. Similarly, investigation is also pre-cognizance stage. And once the report is submitted by the police IO under section 173 of CRPC, then the question of taking cognizance arises. That time he can properly he can raise a question whether previous sanction is taken from the competent authority or not. And when sanction is applicable, when sanction is not applicable, when sanction under section 197 of CRPC is applicable, when it is not required to be taken, that already I have. If any public servant commits forgery, if any public servant commits offense of cheating or outraging the modesty of woman, etc., or if he takes the cash and he got red-handed by the police, in that case no sanction is required, no previous sanction is required for taking cognizance also. Question of cognizance does not arise at all, because the nature of work and the alleged act, nature of his duty and the alleged act, so it must be so similar, it should be form part of one thing only. Then and then the question of taking cognizance arises. I would like to give one example, and that is the case laws. Wahab Ansari, he was working, Wahab Ansari versus state of Wahab Ansari versus state of Bihar. In that case, that person was working as an inspector of the police. Then to disperse the public, collector has ordered him to disperse the public, and he was given a gun because he was an inspector. Then he tried his level best to disperse the public, but because it's part of duty, he fired, then somehow got injured and one has died. In that case, when the case was filed against him, the court said that court never asked about the sanction, previous sanction, to prosecute him, because it was his part of duty. Collector has already ordered him to do so. Therefore, it was part of his duty to disperse the people, to fire, and somehow got injured and one has died. Therefore, in that case, no sanction was required to be taken under section 197. It means the part of duty must be, and the alleged act must be so close that it cannot be segregated. On the contrary, suppose he has, while discharging his duty, he has committed offense of cheating under section 420 or forgery, or he has committed offense of section 375, rape or murder, etc. In that case, he cannot get the protection, and the question of sanction does not come into picture. It does not arises. So when sanction is required to be taken, when sanction is not required to be taken, you have to classify these things. And this, when sanction is required